Okay, Dharma friends, we are going to begin today's Sutta study. Today, February 18, Saturday for us, and those friends joined from different time zone. They already, woke up for the next day, especially our friend who joined from Sri Lanka. So, wish you all happy moments. By practicing Dhamma, we of course develop happiness, and it is technically called Piti Passadi Sukha. Whenever we engage with Dhamma practices, there are some sort of happiness. It's called happiness without sensual pleasures. I think you all have it, and we wish that happiness for you, and may you be able to go beyond that happiness and achieve the emptiness, what we call the sense of nirvana. With that wholesome thought in mind, I'm going to begin today's Sutta studies by paying homage to the Supreme Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I pay my homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened one. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear friends, today's Sutta discussion is about one of the famous discourses among many Buddhists. The Sutta is Anattalakkana Sutta. Before we go into the Sutta studies, I just want to tell you about the preparation for the discussion. I had a problem with my computer for several days, and I could solve that problem only this evening around 5 p.m. That's why I was unable to send you the notification with the flyer about the Sutta studies. Dr. Pial had sent me an email too to ask whether there is Sutta study today, because he was not here with the last Sutta discussion. Anyhow, friends, it's a very last minute email I sent to you, and I'm really happy that you are here with short notice, and it shows how wonderful you are with the Dhamma, especially with Sutta studies. I think you have reserved the time Saturday evening just to participate this Sutta study, and that makes me so inspired to practice more Dhamma. The sutta we selected is Anattalakkana Sutta. Actually, it is recorded in the Tripitaka as Panchavagya Sutta, but we consider this name is because of the essence of the sutta. So the essence of the sutta is talking about non-self. Non-self is something we all understand theoretically, and sometime due to your practice you have achieved a certain level of the whole theory, so that I think everybody understand what it means, but it's always beneficial for us to take it for our discussion and see whether we can find out some avenues through it for the further development of the training. If you go back and see the history of this discourse, it is one of the discourses that the Buddha uttered at the early stages of the Bhikkhu order. According to Arya Pariyesana and Mahasatchaka Sutta, we know that the Buddha preached the first discourse to 5 monks at the Varanasi Isipatana Park. it is said that he spent several days to explain the 5 monks, 4 monks, 3 monks, the Four Noble Truths, along with the Noble Eightfold Path. At some point, 5 monks attained to Sotapanna state, that now they are, enlightened beings into a certain state. They haven't completed the one they wish for, but they are in the low. It is said that the Panchavagya Sutta or the Anattalakkana Sutta was delivered by the Buddha to 5 monks for their final liberation. However, there are other accounts that between Anattalakkana Sutta and the first discourse, the Buddha delivered the Dhamma to huge group of demons, Hemavata and so forth, and they attained to stage of Sotapanna by listening to. So some argue that Hemavata Sutta is the second discourse by the title delivered by the Buddha. Anyway, friends, there may be mistakes and lapses of those information because credible information are not recorded very much, but fortunately we have the Dhamma as it is, so that we know what exactly do with the teaching of the Buddha as recorded in the discourses. So Anattalakkana Sutta, the discourse on the non-self or characteristic is really important. We know the fact that the 3 characteristics of all conditioned things is related to Vipassana, and we have to develop mindfulness, wisdom, and lead our mind to concentration, samadhi, to see the 3 characteristics of each conditional states. It's not only talking about the mental state, we have to look at the material things as well. So, in essence, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self are features of every material and immaterial things, except nirvana. So that's why we come across these wonderful stanzas in the Dhammapada. Sabbe sankara anicchati, sabbe sankara dukkhati, sabbe dhamma anattati. They are wonderfully recorded and uttered by the Buddha to mean that every conditioned things are has these 3 nature, and seeing them from the wisdom, one can get out of this whole mass of problem. So Anattalakkana means the characteristic of non-self is achieved when one understands the aniccacities and the unsatisfactoriness as it is. If you look at the discourses, that is the the gradual way of explaining Dhamma. The Buddha might ask, do you see that whether the eyes are permanent or impermanent? Then bhikkhus or whoever answered the Buddha say, yes, we know the fact that eyes are impermanent. So what is impermanent? Particularly here, eyes could be regarded as sukha or dukkha. Definitely they are dukkha, which means they are fundamentally suffering. Then what is impermanent and what is subject to suffering could be regarded as self or non-self. Then the answer is non-self. So that's it, the way the Buddha explained the 3 characteristics of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. And that way, one go to consider the 5 aggregates also as non-self. So here we see that line of teaching of the Buddha. First, we convince of something very easy to understand, then go to the deeper one to see the non-self. So the way the Buddha taught about non-self is very logical and very practical too, so that bhikkhus and bhikkhunis and lay followers could be reaching this level at some point of their training and complete their nirvanic pleasure. The sutta was delivered by the Buddha when he was at Varanasi, and now you can see that just after the first discourse, and he spent some time to convince monks about the the noble truths and the noble eightfold path. And then when everyone is ready, he took the flight to explain the Panchavagya Sutta, which means those important aspects for someone to get into enlightenment, so that it happens at the Isipatana Park in Varanasi. The bhikkhus were there, of course, those 5 bhikkhus, and the Buddha explained the Dharma in such a way. When somebody has already attained to Sotapanna state, there is no need for the Buddha to make the environment favorable for deep teaching. Already the 5 monks are stream winners, so that he can talk about the Dhamma in a deeper sense. So that's why right after this introduction of Venerable Ananda, the Buddha's the discourse started to report, and the Buddha directly started, monks, form is not self. Where form is self, then this form would not lead to affliction. And one could have it of form. Let my form be thus. Let my form be not thus. And since form is not self, so it leads to affliction, and none can have it can have it of form. Let my form be thus. Let my form be not thus. So the Pali version is really nice here. Rupang bhikkhave atta. Sorry, Rupang bhikkhave anatta. Monks, the form is not self. It means that we cannot find a permanent entity in any form we see or we perceive. Rupang hidang bhikkhave atta abhavissa. Then the Buddha said the Rupa is not any self, not non-self. If Rupa, let's talk about Rupa, let's assume that Rupa is self, then there should be a kind of control over on any Rupa. But we cannot see that kind of control is being taken by anyone, even the Buddha, because Rupa is inherently changing. We can see the arising and passing of Rupa. We can see the deterioration of Rupa, so that we cannot hold on to this Rupa is a self. So that while because of this very clear manifestation of Rupa, so the Buddha said here, Labbeta cha rupe evang me rupang hotu evang me rupang ma ahositi. You cannot wish that Rupa should be like this according to my wish, and this Rupa should not be like this according to my. So you cannot express your authority on it. So that the Buddha said here very clearly, the Rupa is definitely changing, so that it is non-self. Because of this nature, we don't need to worry about Rupa and their change. Let me tell you again the way the Buddha said here. Since form is not self, so it leads to affliction. Due to the changing pattern of Rupa, You cannot say Rupa is mine, Rupa is theirs, Rupa is so and so, so that it is definitely subject to suffering, subject to dukkha. Abadaya Sangvatati, Rupang me Abadaya Sangvatati. Rupa is always subject to Abada, means affliction, suffering. So, has everybody understood what Rupa is? I think so, but anyway, it's beneficial for us to define it well. According to the discourses, Rupa, or the form, is made by 4 great elements. What are the 4 great elements? Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. Solidity, cohesion, heat, and air. And we can further, define the Rupa with 4 derived elements as well. And then from the Abhidharmic point of view, it's another explanation into subtle level. So anyway, Rupa is something made by, something nurtured by 4 great elements. In other words, any Rupa, you have these 4 qualities: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. So what we see from our eyes is all these Rupa made by 4 elements, and having pursued those outside things, we create a mental Rupa in us. It's called Rupa Sanya. So that at the end, Rupa is, as I always say, there should be something physical outside, made Sankatang, and Abhisankaroti Sankaro. You have to have some sort of created, material things outside to see. For example, I see the Buddha statue. Buddha statue is made to that state by somebody. Otherwise, you have the nature of 4 elements. And if there is no Buddha statue, that substance would be a ball-like thing, so rectangular shape-like things. So the sculptor, or the one who made the Buddha statue, took those substances and boiled them down into a certain degree and make flexible the material, so that he made the statue like that. So it's a Sankatang, Abhisankatang, something made by already. So we see it and we perceive it either through seeing or hearing, tasting, smelling or touching or even thinking, and create a mental image in our mind. So we attach to that mental image in our mind simultaneously. So for example, I see this gentleman over here, and as soon as I see him, I create the mental image of him in my mind. And when I like or dislike, I deal with the mental image, not the image outside made by 4 elements. The Rupa, when we say Rupa, of course we have something outside, but Rupa inside is the thing we consider, because Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Passa, Manasikara appear as mental components to the picture, to the mental image we created in mind. So so it's a very subtle, very tricky to understand, but I think you easily understand what I say. The Nama Dharma, the feeling, perception, mental formation, the feeling, perception, intention, contact, and what you call Manasikara, thinking, all these 5 components of Nama arise when senses provide a Rupa. So the Rupa is, therefore, we need to understand is Rupa Sanya, that particular mental image we created in mind. So that is called Rupa. And that Rupa, if we consider that Rupa is mine, it's very ignorant. It's the ignorant, because how could you say that it belongs to me? Because it's a mental state created, created through seeing, in the contact with the support of Vijnana, the colors and the images taken from outside are being put into mental creation with the 5 components of nama. That's what happened in the mind. So this happened in a fracture of second. This happened it doesn't take too long to create this, so that it arises there and pass away. And how could we say this rupa is mine or somebody else? It's permanent or some etc. Because it appear and pass away, it appear and pass away, it appear and pass away. This constant passing and rising happens. However, with the undeveloped, ignorant mind cannot see it. Even the speed of mind is so fast, unthinkable, so that even we do not see that subtle level of arising and passing. But we know the fact that this is how it happened, so that the craving for rupa could easily be removed into a greater extent, even for some people who have not seen that type of arising and passing in samadhi. In other words, the subtlety of arising and passing of rupa in mind is always there. However, when you know the fact that rupa is such a impermanent thing, you can let go of attachment to rupa, all the so-called outside things, inside thing, in a greater extent. So training could happen to let go of the attachment completely in such a way. So that is rupa. In the discourse, you can see that rupa is divided into 11 ways. We are going to read that part. So rupa is not one over here when it is regarded skandha. It's multiple, thousand and millions rupa arises and pass away in a given period of time. So the Buddha told the 5 monks here that how could you consider that this rupa or rupa kanda is yours or mine, because we can see they are always with affliction. So first of all, we need to understand that whatever we see is called rupa. I see this gentleman over here, I see the Buddha statue, I see your names, I see your picture. So all these big compounded things is rupa form, because I see it from your eyes, and I created a picture of you and every other things in my mind, so that it is rupa. It's not taken as something great, something healthy, something peaceful, because it's always changing. Likewise, the Buddha convinced the monk there that Vedana, anatta, Vedana feelings are also not self. Why? We can see that Vedana also, feeling also, subject to affliction, subject to change, subject to illness, subject to disappear, so that Vedana inherently, naturally are not self. Nobody can own feeling. We keep them temporarily. For example, we can say that I am really having a wonderful time. It means that he or she is having pleasant experience all the time. But that is how the mundane way of expression about the pleasant attitude, pleasant feeling. But from the absolute point of view, we know that that word are gorgeous, interesting, very nice. These words are expressing or given to a particular mental state that exists predominantly of that particular person. But the feeling, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feelings are always changing in a very subtle way. They are not going to be with us all the time. And even, for example, pleasant feeling exists in me for 5 minutes. Even in that 5 minutes period, pleasant feeling is changing within that pleasant feeling, because it is because of sensory experiences, depending on senses, consciousness, contact, all these units of making of the idea was there with for pleasant feeling to come. And we know that those conditions of pleasant feeling might change, so the pleasant feeling itself change. So that the Buddha convinced here that pleasant the feeling as a whole is not self because of this reason. And then the sanya. Sanya is perception, and it is also non-self, because likewise with the rupa, form and feeling, perception is also subject to affliction. Whatever you pursue is regarded as suffering, and regarded as dart, and so many words are given there in the sutta to define what sanya is. Sanya is making us fool. Sanya is making us ignorant. Sanya is making us sometime wholesome too, because we have the sanya that should be developed. Anicca sanya, anatta sanya. So sanya is a type of way of thinking, and if you develop anicca sanya, the perception of impermanence, and again anatta is also kind of idea, so then your thinking pattern transform into such way into impermanence and non-self. So sanya is basically something very basic nature of human mind, and it could be deluded as the way we think. Then Buddha talk about sankhara. They are also in non-self, because sankhara, by the word, by the definition, we know that sankhara is something, some collection of material and immaterial things. So when we say collection, it means it has many units in it. They are, if the smaller units change, the big one is going to change as well. So when you go to sankhara in details, rupa is a sankhara, vedana is a sankhara, sanya is a sankhara, and vijnana is also sankhara. And by the word sankhara, all the material things, they are also sankhara, because they are made up. There is something behind every time for elements, so that sankhara is also change, and something subject to change could not be taken as self or mine or theirs, and so forth. And finally the Buddha come to vijnana, the last of the 5 aggregates, and he said vijnana is also considered as not a non-self, because of the same line, same thing, the vijnana could not be control over, and it's subject to affliction too. So whatever subject to affliction, whatever subject to suffering, whatever subject to change, could not be taken as self, because if you say that it's mine, there should be a type of authority on it, and you would be able to stop aging, being sick, and you should have that type of control over. But if you look at the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and if you look at the wind, if you look at the heat, if you look at the other material things outside of you, inside of you, you have no authority on anything. We say that it is my body, it is my picture, but you cannot stop changing of the picture. You cannot change. You cannot change the. You cannot stop the deterioration of your own body. So we can say it by language that it is mine, but absolutely there are no such things. They are always non-self. I think understanding this non-self is not that difficult. When we say that somebody has created us, whoever created us, he or she has done something very mundane thing here in the creation, because the one who created us uh, did something wrong. Because if you are to believe that somebody created us, he did a very his creation is not that good, because we are changing, we are going to go, we cannot keep anything permanent. Why didn't the creator create something permanent? We cannot find any permanent entity in this vast universe, never change. Even the sun, even the moon, even the planet earth, the ocean, the atmosphere, big mountains and forests and buildings, and everything is subject to change. How could we say they are mine, this country is mine, this language is mine, this is my house, this is my... You can say for the sake of living, you can say such thing for the sake of existence, but absolutely, when you come to spiritual practice, there are no such things. If there are no such things, there there are no humans, no divine beings, no Buddha, no Arahants, no house, no country. That's why the Buddha said that those who attain to vipassana experience do not find anything solid. Emptiness means you see that there is no such essence in anything, right? So it's a wonderful way of thinking, and I just want to read the discourse, because you came to the discussion at the last minute. Perhaps you didn't read the discourse. The version I took is from Jnanamoli Thero. The translation would be difficult, but because it's all language, let me get a new one. This is also... In the meantime, if you have question, you can ask. I'm nearly getting it. Because the whole map of Sutta should be in us, so that we can recall the Dhamma there. Yeah, I found the translation of, I think, Bhikkhu Sujato. Yes. Yeah, we already covered this aspect, that Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, all five aggregates are non-self. So I read from there. So when the Buddha questioned bhikkhus there, that whether you see any of the five aggregates is self or not, the conclusion is there that there is nothing like that. But anyway, the Buddha is there to question these five monks. What do you think, monks? Is form permanent or impermanent? Buddha wanted to make sure that they understood the Dharma according to the non-self theory. Impermanence. But if it is impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? If it is moving, and suppose that if my hand is moving, can you see it clearly? Can you see the details of my hands? No, because it's moving. But when I stop like this, you can see the five fingers and sometimes the marks on my palms. So because stop. Likewise, when things arise and pass away in a rapid way, how could we find something solid in it, right? So it's impossible. So when things are impermanent, they are always subject to suffering. So this suffering is not the attitude people have when people die, when people lose something. So that's called lamentation, pain, grief. But the suffering we talk about is the fundamental suffering. It's applicable to each conditional state. If everything is impermanent, because of that fact, you cannot consider things as happy. You cannot consider things as unhappy. That unhappiness means you are not going to cry. When you see that everything is impermanent, you are not going to cry. You just calm down your mind. Sangvega, the sense of urgency towards the Dharma is arising in you. That type of dukkha we talk about in the Noble Truth. So, suffering, sir, the simply bhikkhus answered, if it is, if they are impermanent, we cannot say happy. We would say unhappy or dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness. So, if it is impermanent, suffering, and perishable, is it fit to be regarded as this is mine? I am this, and this is myself. If anything and everything regarded as impermanence and subject to suffering, could you consider them as mine? And can you pinpoint you in that? And then can you consider it's myself? No, Venerable Sir. So with regard to feeling, with regard to perception, with regard to mental formation, and also consciousness, Buddha asked the same question. When you see this, what does it mean by this? When you know that 5 aggregates are not, self, mind, myself, and so forth, you have seen the truth. Seeing this, a learned noble disciple grows disillusioned with form. It's a type of disenchanted. Nibbida. Nibbida on rupa is arising of the person because you see that nothing is permanent and everything is subject to suffering. And when things are impermanent and subject to suffering, I cannot take them, me, mine, myself, and I. So that they disillusion, disenchanted means you are not going to find happiness on anything you see, on anything you experience, anything you pursue. You just pursue, but not for finding happiness. The problem humans and our living beings have is that they are looking for happiness over any sensory experiences. If you do not seek that particular sensual pleasures on sensory experiences, you are going to stop the whole journey of samsara, because the samsara, the wheel of samsara is turning over just because you and we provide this fuel like greed, hatred, and ignorance, desire, wanting, expectation on those sensory experiences. If we are to stop that, the samsara is stopped there. If we are to stop craving, the suffering stop then and there. So understand the the teachings of the Buddha in such way, then it would be easy to conclude that there is no self in this body. There is no self in anything. This is very subtle. This is very difficult because we accept the fact that I speak here and you stay there and so forth. So that a lot of confusion arose during the Buddha's time about self, and it is always happening in today's world too, and in the future too. There may be confusion about self because it is subtle. But look at the way the Buddha solved the problem. If everything is impermanent, means eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Everything means sabba means these three things. 6 senses and their sensory experiences and whatever arise after that in mind, and technically in a short form, 5 aggregates. They are all impermanent, subject to change, subject to deteriorate, so that you cannot find so-called sensual pleasures, no mundane happiness on that, so that they are fundamentally subject to unsatisfactory. So when everything means senses, sensory experiences, and at last five aggregates have that nature, how could we find I, me, and myself in that? How could we have raga? How could we have desire on that? Because they are technically completely changing. So when the person knows this from through experience, through reading, through listening, through pondering, he is not going to enjoy those sensory experiences anymore. There is a disgusting feeling in him over any seeing, any hearing. They are just only he turned or she turned them as only hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching. Therefore, with regard to form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, his behavior is such that he doesn't want to attach to those five aggregates. When there is no desire for five aggregates, the desire he has been maintaining is going to fade away. That is called viraga. Because when you have nibbida, which means disenchantment, you never go to enjoy them. So that viraga is arising there. Viraga means no passion. Earlier you had passion for it, but now you don't have passion because you see the truth of everything. So that viraga is arising, dispassion is arising. When there is dispassion arising in mind, you cannot do anything except liberating your mind from anything material, anything immaterial, anything sankara. So that is called liberation, and the liberation means we know the nirvana. When they are freed, when they are liberated, they know that they are liberated. Then as soon as you liberate your mind from conditioned things, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self, all these things are appeared, and then you liberated from those material and immaterial things, so you know it, so that the next revelation you get is, now there won't be any future birth, because I see the problem, I solved it, and there is nothing in my mind for next birth, so that the jati is ended, birth is ended. And spiritual journey is also done when one realizes the birth is ended. What has to be done has been done, and there is no return to any form of life hereafter, because the fuel for next birth is all gone, is done. This is what the Buddha said in Anattalakkana Sutta, and the group became so satisfied, which means the five monks attained to full liberation. They got the full liberation, which means they attained to arahantship. So this is the simply discourse. It's very relatively short, but the Dhamma there is explained enough. It's always about the five aggregates, Panchavagya. Sometimes people define this discourse with the title that it is Panchavagya Sutta because the Buddha delivered it to five monks. And some people say that no, the main reason why this discourse is named as Panchavagya, just because it talks about the five aggregates and particularly non-self of five aggregates. Anyway, both happens there. You see that it was delivered to five monks, the first five students of the Buddha, and then it talks about the five aggregates and non-self of five aggregates. So is this something we could develop? Actually, we do not want to develop anicca, dukkha, anatta. They are characteristic of sankara. They are characteristic of everything. Our body, our mind, material things around, they are characteristic features of everything. So there is nothing for us to develop. But the anicca sanya, dukkha sanya, anatta sanya, that particular understanding about impermanence, about unsatisfactoriness, about non-self could be developed in one. In other words, the perception of anicca, dukkha, anatta could be developed in us, because we have created the perception of nitya, sukha, atta in us. The problem of this whole life is because of the creation of permanent ideas, sukha, happy ending, expectations, and self ideas. In Vipallasa Sutta, in other suttas, where the Buddha talks about where the problem started, we could clearly see that human beings, living beings, out of ignorance, create permanent ideas on impermanent things, create joyful ideas, feeling on something fundamentally suffering, and they created permanent self-belief on something never permanent, self, so that the problem arises due to misconception, misunderstanding, and finally it's called ignorance. So it's very clear that we can take it out just by looking at those characteristics. But what has to be developed in order to see this is clear mindfulness. Which Sammaditthi should be there in the first place for even mindfulness to come to that state. And with virya, it makes it makes the things clear. So we need to develop mindfulness, Sammaditthi, and right effort, virya, and other important factors in order to see the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self on all conditioned things. So that's what the sutta simply says, and I think it's beneficial for us to share our ideas on the sutta and the dharma in the sutta, so that we could understand the context better. If you have any questions, yes, Dr. Pial. Yeah, muted. Can you hear me, Dr. Pial?
So this is considered as number 2 in the discourses of the Buddha, like generally, but we don't know there were any between. After Dhammacakka, this is the second discourse. By this time, the 5 monks have already attained Sotapanna, right? Now, this something like the confirmation of their getting rid of Sakkaya Ditthi, like because they are Sotapanna. This is where we are talking about the clinging to a self, pretty much around the 5 aggregates. So he's asking this. They are repeating, yes, Bante, like that. So, but it doesn't really tell us about the empty nature of the aggregates. Like I mean, there are other sutras like Penapindika Sutra. We talk about the empty, like the self. The form is empty. So don't regard our perception is empty as a mirage. Like so that's even more deeper in the self, that where it's more important to realize, because what you call is empty of self, right? Empty of people. The sutra asks, what do you mean by empty of self, right? So it talks a little bit more into the depth, but this monks are already has broken Sakkaya Ditthi, like a self-identity view already. But this I mean, it may be that we are missing something, but I guess maybe there will be other sutras to follow for them to get fully enlightened, because they eventually broke through all the taints or defilements at the end, right? They became arahats by this, according to the sutra itself.
It's a very interesting point, actually. The sutta is relatively short, and Buddha seems talking about the non-self with regard to five aggregates in a short form here. What you pointed out is really interesting because Sakkayaditthi is broken when they attain to Sotapanna state. And according to the available information, it was done with the first discourse because Pariyasana Sutta and Mahasachaka Sutta repeatedly saying that the Buddha took several monks of the five and explained the same thing again and again until they broke their self identity. And as you rightly pointed out, that self view is gone. And why did the Buddha talk about non-self again with regard to five aggregates here? That's a very interesting question. Yeah, it seems in one point, in one way, it seems that there are some missing points here. But from the other angle, we can think that with the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha was able to convince these monks about the dukkha very much, because when you explain the Four Noble Truth and also the Noble Eightfold Path, people, wise people like five monks could, I think, penetrate through all the aggregates. And because in dukkha satcha, you talk about sankittena pantupadana kanda dukkha. So they are already known about it into a greater extent, so that I think Buddha did not go through in details about the five aggregates like Madhuvindika Sutta, like the sutta you mentioned, do you call Pena Pindupama Sutta. So I think from our angle, we see these discourses like Pena Pindupama Sutta, other suttas are very clear about the non-self on five aggregates. I think Buddha did not go into details of five aggregates and clinging in this discourse just because they have again immense knowledge about it and experience about it, so that Buddha, it's just like ripened fruit in the branch, and you don't need to waste your energy to break them just by touching. They are going to fall. Likewise, these monks were knocking the door of arahantship, and Buddha wanted to give only a tip of it. That's what I understand.
This is
But
probably the insight, I think, for first lesson of insight, because they already probably developed so much samadhi. Just all needed a bit of insight for them to push through the breakthrough the defilements, right? So it's just like so. Contemplative insight, because you can't do without the insight. Like they're probably, these five monks have been, learned samadhi so well. This is just a matter of pushing them through the insight part, like the insight, learn the lesson of insight. Like, yeah. And Bhante, also this characteristics are, Bhikkhu Thanissaro talks about, it's a better term, it's called three perceptions, because these are comes many sutras they refer to as perception, dasa sanya. There's so many other four sanyas, like so, or sanya vipallasa. They talk about these as a sanya, like a perception. I think you spoke about it rather than characteristics.
I agree 100%, because that's how we need to get it. Because at the end, we what we have created with ignorance is nitya sanya, right? We have created an idea. We have created ideas, permanent ideas on impermanent things, so that we need to create the perception of impermanent. That's the practice part. I agree with you, and also Bhikkhu Thanissaro, better term. When we term them in such a way, we can understand them easily. In other words, that's true.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bhante, I'm just somewhat a little bit confused now. Now, the person who attained Sotapanna, I think my understanding is that person has suppressed the upadana for five aggregates, so they are more or less at dormant stage rather than complete breakthrough. So only at probably the Arhat stage, you really break that one. Is that the correct interpretation of Sotapanna?
Actually, we have 4 Upadanas, Kamupadana, Dittyupadana, Silabhatupadana, and Attavadu-padana. Clinging to sensual pleasures, clinging to views, clinging to rites and rituals, and clinging to self. When you attend to Sotapanna, let's discuss this. Kamupadana, the clinging to sensual pleasures is always with the Sotapanna. So the Sotapanna might enjoy the sensual pleasures. Look at those recorded characters like Visakha and other people. They have kind of, their upadana is not that subtle. Whatever they did wrong, they immediately realize. However, it happens again and again in a subtle, in a way. They see it. Ditti upadana. With this Ditti upadana or clinging to view, Sakkaya Ditti is completely broken by the attainment to Sotapanna. So we can clearly we clearly see that Ditti upadana is broken down when one attains to Sotapanna state. It means attachment to views are not there with the Sotapanna. And then particularly Silabhatupadana, Silabhata Paramasa is the Sangyojana of the fetter is broken down when one attains to Sotapanna, and Silabhata Upadana, when we come to Upadana level, we can expect that the bigger factor is Silabhata Upadana and lesser factor is Silabhata Paramasa. So when Sotapannas exist, they might do some rituals, they might do some traditional things, but that we can expect that Upadana is less. We have no very clear answer for this, but when we come to Attavadu-padana, some sort of ditti on Atta is being broken. So if Upadana completely gone when one attained to Sotapanna, he is not called Sotapanna, he should be called Arahant. But we can expect that some Upadana are seemingly gone completely, but some Upadana stayed with the Sotapanna because from another angle we can see that what he is doing after. So we cannot give a yes and no answer. It's very lengthy, and I mean the answer would be very complex one. So we can answer like this, that the Sotapanna destroyed the view, self view, ditti, but he has some attachment to other things, particularly karma, so that we can expect from him that some sort of upadana to atta is always there. But the view about atta is gone, but the kind of belief is always there into a certain extent. Look at the non-returners experiences, the anagami. He has raga on rupa raga, arupa raga, mana, uddha, chavijja. They are subtle, fetters, the bondage to life and samsara. However, the fact is always there that he has some sort of clinging or craving into those particular 5 aggregates. So that's what I can tell, and it's a very good questions too, that we have to look at the Sotapannas and his state and what he was doing before attaining to Sotapanna, and what kind of craving being shattered. And from another angle, we can see that some sort of type of tanha is there, and he is a great individual who actually deal with the upadana very well, because his condition is something like this: niyato sambodhi parayana aparappacho sattu sasane niyato sambodhi parayana. He is certain to attain enlightenment, so that his way of living is removing from attachment. So maybe he has some attachment, maybe he has some gross level of attachment because he enjoys senses. Kama raga is always there for him or for her. So, however, his way of living is releasing himself or herself from attachment. Did you?
Yes. Thank you, Bhante, yeah, for the explanation.
Yes. Yes, Doctor. Yes, Pelmat from Sri Lanka. You're muted.
Did I say anything?
No, I was going to tell your name. Actually, it was not you.
Okay.
I saw the.
So that
Bhante, as I see at the end of this Sutta, Venerable Jnanamali's translation, it says now during this utterance, the hearts of the bhikkhus of the group of 5 were liberated from taints through clinging no more. That means they all became arahant at the end of that sermon. Is it right?
Yes, yes.
Because
right.
in the Pali text I see imasmin cha pana vayyakarnasmi bhajyamane panchavagyanang bhikkhunang anupadaya asavei chittani vimuchan suti sattama. It is translated into Sinhala like this. It says, me dharme deshana kala kalhi panchavag bhikshunge sid dadikota alva nugenimen kelesungen miduna. They all became arhat. Maybe by that time, maybe they have already achieved the Sotapanna status. Is it right?
Yeah, they achieved the Sotapanna state right after, first the Kondanya attained to Sotapanna.
That was the first one. That was the first one.
First one. And the other 4 actually attained to Sotapanna state after that. In Mahasachaka Sutta, the Buddha the clearly said that he kept the 4 monks, 3 monks, and sent 2 for Pindapata. In the meantime, the Buddha was able to explain the Dhamma to them for their Sotapanna achievements.
Yes.
So once everybody got into Sotapanna state, including Kondanya, Vappa, Mahanama, Badhya, everyone, then the Buddha delivered this particular discourse, aiming them to be arhats. So, so the attainment to Sotapanna of each monk happened well before this discourse. So, attainment to, from when the Buddha started the sermon for these 5 monks, they sat down there as Sotapannas.
That may be the reason. So sorry.
Yeah.
That may be the reason why Pancha Upadanaskandha is so briefly described in this sutta.
Indeed, that's what we think actually. Yes, because you are a graduated person and you don't need to listen to those basic things. So you just want to hear something important only, something subtle. Then because you can organize your thoughts and shift yourself from this level to next level, so that Buddha did not get much time to deliver this, because Dr. Pial said they were ready to jump. Their
just
mind
like a
was
confirmation, maybe just the stream entry, and maybe there's more they contemplated and become. So at the end, so they already have fetter of Sakai that is gone by Sotapanna. But I guess what the other question was, the conceit is only one that goes at the end, the
Yeah.
fetter. That's with at the arahats level, right? So the conceit is probably, that's what they kind of went through, breaking at this stage and got rid of all the asavas, like taints. So
Yeah.
it's like a code word for saying no more taints. In other words, you're arahat.
Yeah.
Asavakya jnana. Yeah.
And like conceit and avijja, avijja is a term given to all these conceit and greed and hatred, karma, and actually avijja is the ignorance of when avijja is gone. Avijja is a kind of results of all these things, in other words. So they are all gone with this destruction of craving for attachment for 5 aggregates. So all are, could be correct, because we see the situation there in the Baranas when the Buddha delivered this discourse from different angles, and I think everybody is understood the very fact in the sutta that attachment to 5 aggregates is destroyed when the monks complete the understanding on 3 characteristics. I rightly say they had developed the perception of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self with regard to 5 aggregates. Therefore, there is nothing in their mind, any sort of any glimpse of rebirth, any idea of such things are not existed after that in their mind, so that the jati is done. That's why it is said in the discourse that they liberated, vimukti is achieved.
Even this is a short sutra. I believe this is very useful for us as a contemplation, going through the sutra many times. Like it kind of the picture behind, you kind of initially it's more like a theory, but when you contemplate on it, you see this is real. So it might be like a very contemplative way of getting insight by repeating or reading the sutra over and over again like a mantra. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
This is a very useful sutra.
That's very true. We find repetition in suttas. Sometimes people fed up with repetition, but why do we have repetition? Because when you read the same thing over and over, the better knowledge and experience come to you. For example, let's say rupa. Rupa is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. And we can use the word etc., so and so. But when you do that, you are missing the point. You don't spend time enough there just to let your mind embrace the point. So that when you use the word contemplation, it's really true. We need to repeat the same thing over and over. This is why we say Namo Tassa 3 times. This is why we say same thing over and over, because our mind may be all over. But when you hear it for the first time, you don't get it. But second time, you get much more than from the previous time. So your mind is getting it at last because you hear over and over. I really like that, because that's how we train our mind. So as you said, Dr. Pial, this discourse is really important in many ways. And one thing I want to add it is that if Buddha said, if you say this is mine, if you say this is self, you would be able to control. If I say that these flowers are mine behind me, I would be able to stop fading of these flowers, because they are mine. I should have the control over. I should have the authority over. But there are no such things. From conventional truth, we say this is my face, and these are my teeth, and these are my nails. But I cannot control them. I cannot stop aging and deterioration of any of those body parts. Why? Because my idea of my teeth, my nails, my skin, my face is false. It's ignorance. There are no such. So it is our mind ignorantly created this idea. It's okay to say my teeth, my not anyone else also, but use it only for a purpose of maintaining them. But absolutely, there are no such things. So this sutta is brought up that idea in a nice way. If you say so that if you say that this rupa, this feeling is mine, look at that. Can you control it? Can you keep unchanged? No. Then therefore, rupa is naturally non-self, impermanence, unsatisfactory. We don't need to actually. This is why the Buddha said that I awaken Dhamma Chakku Mudupadi. Buddha did not create the Dhamma Chakku. It is something he found. He was in a search and he found it in his mind. So technically, everything is impermanent, everything is unsatisfactory, and we cannot find things unchanged. Self is being created, and we created the self, and now we try to own certain things for that self. That is ignorant. So I think this sutta is, despite the length of it, it's really nice for contemplation. The more you contemplate, the better and profound understanding you get. I agree with that. It's a real practice. And the 5 monks who attained to Sotapanna already did it in an extraordinary way. I think that's why they got into full enlightenment with this sermon.
There's no like a free will. In other words, I mean, there is a will. I mean, Buddha never said there is no will, but there is no free will. In other words, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed. Very good. So if you don't have any questions about the sutta, just go to the end of the sutta studies today. We can take this kind of suttas again and again because we need that. It is a requirement for me and all for you. And I really like to take suttas into discussion because at the end of each sutta study class, I feel better. I feel inspired. I feel rejuvenated with the Dhamma, so that I always look forward to doing it, that kind of discussion. But I have to cancel the Sutta study class for I believe 7 or 8 weeks because of my trip to Sri Lanka in 5 days. I promised last time that I could do some discussion while I was in Sri Lanka, but when you go there, you don't find time to do that. You have so many things to consider, and so that this time I don't promise, and I completely cancel the class for nearly 8 weeks, which means 2 months. I know that you have the Dhamma in you, and you can rely on it. You have many sources to read and listen to, and even without them, you can practice Dhamma. So have a lot of avenues to do that. So I'm happy that you have it, so that I go with free mind, and I have to help a lot of people who suffer from various things. And if I have chance, I will share the Dhamma. I think Vimal Mahatmya was asking me whether he can organize a session there. Of course, yes, I didn't answer your email yet, but I will tell you when and which time I can. So I have a lot of such programs too, and I really enjoyed them because when we see that people embrace the Dhamma, it's something for us. So apart from that, I will be dealing with other conventional charity work and talking to relatives, friends, and sometimes you cannot speak, you cannot discuss, deep Dhamma with some people, that so that we, let them do certain ritualistic, rituals and related activities. At least they accumulate merits out of those things. Merits are also required thing for us to complete our training to Nirvana. So it's full program, and I don't find, I don't look for relaxation when I go to Sri Lanka. From the morning to the last minute of the day, I travel, I talk to people, I do program, because my age still allow me to do that. That's my original plan, so that I may not be able to do the Sutta study class and other spiritual program that I do from here. So that I wish to see you all in most probably 8 weeks. I hope my health would be good after 8 weeks, and I am going to meet you maybe in the middle of April. So thank you for coming to Sutta study class whenever I posted it, and you are all inspirations to me and everyone in this group, and those friends who always contributed are regarded very much, and those who never ask questions, they are very good too, because we know that you take the Dhamma into you and practice as much as you can. And by the power of merits I myself accumulated from the Sutta study class and also other activities here, I wish you good health and peace of mind. And this life is so uncertain. During last couple of months, we lost a lot of people and they were, according to the way they live, it may not be happening for them, and it happens. And our life is subject to all kinds of natural disasters, like in Egypt and Syria and elsewhere in the world. We do not know. So it's better for us to manage our mind with the Dhamma and live in the Dhamma. Dhammo sada samangnati. There are doctors here. The medicine, we have a lot of medicine for different illnesses, but the Dhamma is a medicine, and drinking that Dhamma medicine is the most important thing. So let's drink it always and have it always, and make ourselves away from all kinds of problem in our mind. So my merits and merits from all of you is shared here for that purpose, and may we all attain Nirvana very soon. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante.
Sadhu Bhante.